The course is talking about the bucket system. So this would be the bucket system for the RBC Heritage. If you're following along with me again, there is a link in the description of this video that'll send you to the cheat sheet where you can follow along with me. I'll actually open up that cheat sheet for you. Go down to the bucket system, go up to the filter and add the bucket system filter. That way you can follow along with me. I'm going to do this exactly the way I do it every single week. We're going to go ahead, unselect, or I should say clear everyone out of the stat filter, and then just select last year. We're going to talk about the last year buckets. So this is determining, does playing last year matter at this event, and what place matters. Which golfers should we select based off their finishing position from last year? I'm going to go ahead and just fire through the projections, and then we're going to talk about each of these buckets individually. Your last year one bucket, we want 1 to 3. Those are golfers who top 20 this event last year. This, again, is taking into account how many golfers in that bucket this year, the strength of field points, and the success rate. So with that, 1 to 3 is our projection. Last year, too, is that 20 to 40 range. So whoever finished 20th to 40th place at this event last year is in this bucket. We want somewhere between 0 to 2 golfers. Normally, we see 13. We have 13 this week. Pretty high strength of field, 14% of the points go there, and a decent success rate. So 0 to 2, I'm pretty confident with that. Even my conservative projection over here is pretty good with that too. Last year 3s, not super high. We have 15 golfers in that bucket this week. Normally we see around 14. 0 to 2 is the projection. Remember, we're always rounding up with this number. We're always rounding down with this number, and we want a 2-point buffer between them. Since we can't go lower than 0, we got to bump our max projection up to 2. So 0 to 2 is the actual projection for this bucket. Again, 15 golfers in it. 0 to 2 for last year 4 buckets. That's that 60 to 80 range. It's kind of a dead range normally. I could be just fine with not playing a single golfer from this bucket ever. And it doesn't matter what tournament it is. Just never shows up that well. So 0 to 2, technically, there are 3 golfers in that bucket, but keep it at 0 to 1. And then golfers who missed the cut at this event. I have a projection of 1 to 2. Remember, we want a 2-point gap. I just complained about this during the Masters where I didn't do that. I kept it at 1. Don't do that. You're going to find yourself in a world of hurt. 0 to 2 is the projection. Normally see about 32 golfers. We have 38 golfers in the bucket this week. Strength of field points matches our last year 2 bucket up here, but the last year 2 bucket has 25 less golfers than this bucket does. So really, this is a volume-driven bucket. That's where the projection is as high as it is, it's 1 to 2, but really technically 0 to 2. I don't mind playing someone from here, and we'll talk about some of the golfers here just shortly. And then last year 6s. This is golfers who did not play this event last year. We're going to have some pretty darn good golfers in this bucket. We normally see 47. We have 57. A lot of golfers who are good normally don't play this event, but because it's an elevated event, we're going to see more of those golfers here. 336 strength of field points go towards it. That's nearly 50% of the field for strength of field points. Not a super high success rate, but with those numbers, with volume, with strength of field points, it's going to bump this projection up. So 2 to 5 is the actual projection. And let's go ahead and take a look at all the golfers in these buckets. So starting out with that the last year 1 bucket. If you're following along with me on the cheat sheet, just use the Dream Sheet tab, go up to the filter, go down to DraftKings. And then what we're going to do is select the last year filter, go clear everything out, select 1. We want somewhere between 1 to 3 golfers from this bucket. We have 3 9K and above golfers. We have Jordan Spieth, Patrick Cantlay, Cam Young. I think starting here is a wonderful place to start. A lot of people are going to be on Cantlay. He's number 1 in my model. He's probably going to be number 1 in most people's models. I think it's a great place to start. I don't think there's an issue starting with Jordan Spieth or adding Cam Young to your lineup. Now, again, the projection's 1 to 3. That's what I think is going to be inside the top 10. Does not mean that's how many golfers you should choose. I think choosing 1, though, is a good thing to do. There could be the 3 golfers at the top here could actually finish inside the top 10. You can't roster them. It wouldn't be feasible. You wouldn't have enough money left to build your lineups with to finish out the last 3 golfers with a decent player pool. So just remember that. If you think the top 3 golfers have better odds to finish inside the top 10 than one of these other guys taking one of their spots, then by all means, then you select 1 to 2 and no more than that. But if you don't think any of these golfers are that great, then you don't want to choose any of them. Then the remaining golfers, I think you have a realistic opportunity to select up to 3 of those golfers, if you like them, that is. So just keep that in mind. I mean, there's a lot of glue pieces down here. That was hard to say. A lot of glue pieces down here, which means you can just insert this in between other golfers and it puts the lineup together. That's how I think of it, as glue. So, and I don't really think you have a bad choice with most of these golfers. Maybe Adam Long. I'm probably going to exclude him from my player pools. I might play one of him, but no more than that. Moving on to the next bucket, last year 2s. 0 to 2 is our projection. So again, all you got to do is deselect 1, go to 2 from the last year filter. We have Morikawa in this bucket, Justin Thomas, Sungjae Im, Tyrrell Hatton. Those are all interesting names. So again, 0 to 2. Maybe this is a good reason not to play Morikawa or Justin Thomas. Maybe it's a good reason to play them. I might ignore that and go with Sungjae. I bet you anything my optimizer is going to go Cantlay Sungjae in most of my lineups. I guarantee you that's going to be the best combination to build lineups around with the optimizer. And that's fine. I'm cool with that. I think that's a wonderful way to start. You want to be, especially if these two are projected to be like highly owned or whatever. Again, I can already hear a couple of my viewers be like, are you going to talk about leverage right now? Because that's kind of weird. This is a natural way to pivot off of ownership. If that's a thing that you care about, this is just a natural way. I mean, the bucket system just does it by itself. It's not what it was intended for, but it just does it. Because you got to get weird with your lineups in order to take down an optimal lineup. And that's, I think, having one of these guys as your anchor plays, I think it's going to be just fine. Now, again, the projection for this bucket is 0 to 2 golfers from this bucket will be in the top 10. So it's not a for sure thing, but hey, Sungjae or Tyrrell sounds good to me. Last year 3s, that 40 to 60 range, we want 0 to 2. Yeah, the next 3 buckets are 0 to 2. So last year 3, bunch of 7 and 6K golfers. I'm not going to talk about any of these guys. Just remember it's 0 to 2. There are some interesting names. I'm not going to talk about any of them. Last year 4s have Sahith Theegala in here. He might be popular because of his Masters event last week, his finish. He finished 9th at the Masters. Maybe a good time to not play him. This is a dead range, by the way. This 60 to 80 range, it's usually never a good range to play from. Although he is 18th in my model. I think what I would do, the golfers in this bucket, I would just temper the ownership here. I don't think I play Sahith. I probably don't play him in more than 10% of my lineups. I think that's where I cap it at. I do not want to see more than 10%. And really, maybe it's less than that. I don't know yet. I have to figure it out. 3 golfers in this bucket. Yeah. I said when we were going over it, maybe just 1. I think that'd be fine. Last year 5s, your missed cuts. This is a 0 to 2 bucket, by the way. 0 to 2. There are a lot of golfers in this bucket. A lot of them you probably just write off, and there's a lot of 6K golfers in here too. I think this is wonderful because this is what I like about the bucket system. It's telling you 0 to 2. Just to go over this again, technically it's 1 to 2, but there's nothing indicating, even with how many golfers are in this bucket, that you want more than 2 golfers from this bucket in your lineups. A lot of really good names. Steven Yeager, Davis Riley, K.H. Lee, Tom Hoagie, Chris Kirk, Ricky Fowler, Russell Henley, and Matt Fitzpatrick. Can there be mold breakers? Yes, there can. This bucket can fail. We can have more golfers from this bucket inside the top 10 than what I have projected, but I don't see a need to play any of these guys. Like, I'd probably just ignore that, because the next bucket, the last year sixes that did not plays, the projections 2 to 5, there are some meaty golfers in this bucket. Starts with John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Victor Holland, Tony Finau, Xander Schauffele, Max Homa, Sam Burns, Tom Kim. Lots of good golfers in this bucket. Pretty easy to start here and go to the other ones. That last one we just looked at with the missed cuts and stuff, maybe not the best one to do. So I think keep all of that in mind. A lot of good names. Again, there's even Adam Scott at $7,400. I think that's egregiously mispriced. Not egregiously, but it's pretty darn close. $7,400, pretty good. And again, the projection of this bucket's 2 to 5. That's to finish inside the top 10. So if you needed reasons to play any of these top guys more than you already do, I'm giving you some more. Let's move on to the next bucket. So again, if you're following along with me, just remove last year and go down to last week. And we're going to start at the top. So did it matter playing at the Masters? Like, what type of success can we try to predict from golfers playing for the Masters here at RBC Heritage? That's what this bucket's going to tell us. Well, if you top 20 at this at the Masters, it's a pretty good indicator of success at this event. I'm projecting anywhere between 1 to 4 golfers from the top 20s of the Masters to finish inside the top 10 of this event. So let me repeat that. I think 1 to 4 golfers who top 20 at the Masters last week will be inside the top 10 this week. Those that finished 20th to 40th place at the Masters, 0 to 2. Good likelihood that at least one golfer will be inside the top 10, but 0 to 2. Anyone worse than that, though? Yeah, probably not great. Oh, I shouldn't even say it that way. I'm sorry. Let me take that back, because that includes miscuts, and miscuts doesn't really apply the same way. That 40 to 60 range, we have 6 golfers in it, where we normally see 6 golfers. Not a high success rate. Not a lot of strength of field points going there. 0 to 1 is the technical projection, but 0 to 2 is the actual projection. So not a high confidence bucket there. Missing the cut at the Masters has a pretty decent success rate, but we only have 10 golfers from the Masters in this field that missed the cut, where we normally see around 17, which is really interesting. Is that absolutely true? I got to make sure. JT, Corey, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, we do. So that does hold up. So we don't have as many golfers as we typically do. That high success rate, not super great. Or I mean, it's good, but it doesn't matter if there aren't a lot of golfers in it. So 0 to 2 is a pretty good projection. So really the only 2 buckets you should really be concerned about is having a top 20 finish at the Masters, as well as a 20 to 40th place finish. And again, the projections are here for you. I just went over them. Keep that all in mind. And then just not playing last week. I mean, it's a volume driven bucket. 96 golfers are in that bucket this week. We normally see 90. Strength of field points is decently high. The projection is 2 to 4. And actually, now that I look at the conservative number, since this number isn't greater than 3, this will round up to 3. And remember, I want a 2-point difference. That'll push the minimum for me down to 1. So now this actually reads 1 for the minimum projection. Check, check, check. Jeez. My whole system just disconnected. Okay. Back to where I was at. 2 to 4 from this bucket. Actually, 1 to 4. I'm sorry. Yes. We bring this down. The minimum goes down to 1. 4 is the max projection. So that is what we're looking at here. Let's go ahead and go through this. Again, if you're following along with me, make sure all your other filters are cleared out, which means selecting everybody. And then we get into our last week bucket. We're going to last week ones. So from this bucket, we want 1 to 4. Actually, not so much we want. We're projecting 1 to 4 to be inside the top 10. Meaning you should select somewhere between 1 to 4. But we have 4 10K golfers here. If we think these golfers are going to be inside the top 10, you really only can select 1, maybe 2. That still fulfills the projection. Fulfills, not really the word I'm looking for. Satisfies the projection. But I think there's a pretty good chance that one of these other golfers will find themselves inside the top 10. So I think starting up here and then also adding someone from here, probably a good way to start your lineup builds. Again, 1 to 4 is a projection. You probably want to select just 2 golfers. Looking at the price tags here, maybe 3 max, but that's probably it. Next one is 0 to 2. Tony Finau's at the top of this one. Sam Burns, Tyrrell Hatton, Tommy Fleetwood. There's a lot of good names here. I think capping it at 2 is probably the best way to go, honestly. I don't think I'd play more than 2, and having that 0 to 2 projection is just fine. I think that's fine. The next one is also technically 0 to 2. If I were to show you that on the screen really quickly. 0 to 2, there's 6 golfers in it, and it's 0 to 1, really. Max Homa's in this bucket. Now, I was in the Fantasy Golf Pod last week. I even said this during my strategy video. Max Homa was in some really bad buckets last week. He finished 43rd place. He's also in a bad bucket here. If you like Max Homa, hey, that's okay. You can play him. The projection is 1. It's 0 to 2 technically, but really it's 1. The rest of the golfers that are with him in that bucket, don't pair him up with Max Homa. I would just select 1 guy from here and move on. Stay away from 2. We don't have to look at last week 4s. We go right into the missed cuts. Remember, this was a 0 to 2 bucket. Technically, yeah, 0 to 2. JT, Corey Connors, Tom Hoagie, Minwoo Lee. Some interesting names. I don't mind going to Justin Thomas, but again, this bucket is projected at 0 to 2. So I probably stay away from anchoring around any of these golfers. That to me includes Justin Thomas. So probably stay away from that. I don't care for Kevin Kisner or Cam Champ. Really, even Danny Willett, I probably wouldn't want to play him either. The rest of them are pretty in play, though. I wouldn't mind playing any of those guys. And then the last bucket is 1 to 4. So last week 6 is not playing last week. Technically 1 to 4. Oh my God, I got to update this. I am so sorry. Our champion from last week. Come on. I got to update my my input sheet for whatever reason. So don't worry about this. My numbers are, I should say, actually, it changes it quite a bit. 2 to 4 is what, it's technically 1 to 4 still for last week ones. This DraftKings page that I have, the only thing that really takes into account is the strength of field points from this column, as well as the strokes gain stats. Having ROM as a 6 instead of a 1 doesn't really change much, but it does now add more strength of field points, and that's what's going to increase this projection. So it was already 1 to 4. Technically, this is 2 to 4. So you'd want to, probably play 2 to 4 golfers from this bucket. We already went over it. You really can't afford Like if we were to look at it again, there are now 5 golfers in that bucket that are in, that are 10K and above. It's very easy to predict, at least 2 of these guys to be inside the top 10, if not 3 or 4 of them. That would take care of your projection. So starting with one of these guys is the way to go. In my opinion, it's the way to go. Just start here. One of these guys will be inside the top 10 and most likely in the optimal lineup. So go there. And then again, like I said, you fit one of these guys in your lineup. I think that'll be fine. But now that Rahm's up here, I think 2 of these 10K golfers are going to be inside the top 10. I'm not sure which one it's going to be, but it's just, unless Rahm like withdraws, it's too good. It's too good of a bucket and too good of the 10K and above golfers. Like I can easily see Cantlay being inside the top 10. I can easily see Spieth inside the top 10. This is technically one of the best course fits for Colin Morikawa. Scottie Scheffler is elite. So too is Jon Rahm. Like they can play anywhere. Their game travels to any golf course. They're so good with all aspects of their game. How do we not see at least 2 of these guys inside the top 10? Anyways, so does our 1 to 4 still stand? It does. So 3.10 actually goes up to 4. This doesn't change anything over here. It's still a 1 to 4, but now we remove Rahm. We have less likelihood of like 2 or more to be inside the top 10 from this bucket, but some good names. Kuchar, Wyndham Clark, Ricky Fowler. I'm probably pumping the brakes on Taylor Montgomery. I don't like his golf swing. Doesn't have any course history. Not saying that can't be an okay thing here. I would rather not. And we have like the likes of Dietrich down here, Cam Davis. I'll probably still go back to Patrick Rogers. I got no issue. I will be playing this whole bucket sparingly. Holy moly, 96 golfers in this bucket. That's insane. Yeah, 1 to 4. A lot of this is glue, by the way. So you could actually have up to 4 golfers that you do want to play from this bucket in your lineup. That covers the last week buckets. Next one to get into is course history. So again, if you're following along with me, deselect last week, select course history. And this basically lets us know, does course history matter at this golf course? So if you have that 0 to 20 average finishing position, you'd be in course history bucket 1. We have 7 golfers in there. We normally see around 8. High success rate. The projection is 0 to 2. That still applies even with the conservative projections. The next one, that 20 to 40 range, that's still pretty good course history. That's averaging 20th to 40th place at this event. That most likely also includes having a top 10 finish and maybe a missed cut, or top 10 in a 60th to 80th place. So you find yourself inside that 20 to 40 range. Maybe you have a string of top 20s at this event with, 1 missed cut. That probably gets you in this range as well. So course history 2s, that's projecting 1 to 3. And that stays pretty common throughout all the numbers. We see 21 usually per year, and we have 21 this year. Over 25% of strength of field points go there. Pretty high success rate. Obviously a high frequency rate. That means every single year, at least one golfer from this bucket has been inside the top 10. So keep that in mind. Same thing applies with course history 3. It's almost a mirror of course history 2. 1 to 3 is a projection, except for this is more volume driven. 41 golfers in this bucket where we normally see 39, but the projection stays the same, 1 to 3. Course history 4, 0 to 2, 100% frequency rate to be inside the top 10 here. Normally see around 25, and we have 29 this week. Not super high with strength of field points, but a nice number in 69. 0 to 2, yeah, I mean, we normally see 1, but it's just not looking super great this week. Course history 5s, 0 to 2 is technically the projection, but we're probably going to err on 0 to 1. And if you've never played this event before, guess what? Decent success rate, decent frequency rate, which means how often does it happen where a golfer from this bucket finishes inside the top 10? 87% is pretty high. Normally you see 25. We have 30 this week, and a lot of strength of field points added to this. I believe Scottie Scheffler's in this bucket. 0 to 2 is the technical projection. I should say the technical projection is 1 to 2, but the actual projection is 0 to 2. So let's go ahead and look at each of the buckets with the golfers in them. Now for this one, go into the last week, since we were just talking about that, select everyone or select all, hit OK. Let's go into course history 1. Now again, course history 1, that projection says 0 to 2. We have 7 golfers in it. Patrick Cantlay, Cam Young, Matt Kuchar, Justin Rose, Seamus Power, Cameron Davis, and Eric Van Rooyen. I like this because, one, this is going to limit your expectations for some of these golfers. You might like Cam Young because he had a 3rd place finish here last year. His course history is 3. He's only played it 1 time, and he had a 3rd place finish. What's to say he's going to be good at this event this year? Last year could just be a fluke. Patrick Cantlay, on the other hand, finished 2nd here, has 20 for a course history. It's pretty darn good. And he's pretty good on Pete Dye golf courses. So I like that. Now, if you're going to play Patrick Cantlay, the projection for this bucket is 0 to 2. You probably don't pair him up with Cam Young, but the rest of the golfers underneath, those are all glue pieces. So you wanted to pair up Patrick Cantlay with Seamus Power, by all means do so. Be my guest. Same goes with Justin Rose or Matt Kuchar. These are all great price tags to add with Patrick Cantlay. So we're going to max it out at 2, and that's that. The next bucket, our projection's a little bit higher. We want 1 to 3 from course history 2. This is also going to apply for course history 3. So I'm just going to go right to that bucket after talking about this one. We have how many golfers in this one? 21 golfers in this bucket. This is decent course history. It includes the winner from last year in Jordan Spieth. 1 to 3 is the projection. I mean, we have 4, probably 5 golfers that you can't pair together up here at the top, which means if we think 2 of these guys are going to be inside the top 10, you can only select 1 at most from the rest of them. I think that's fine. Like Shane Lowry, Tyrrell Hatton, I actually like kind of both of those this week. I also don't mind going to like Tommy Fleetwood. Probably pumping the brakes on Webb Simpson, although I don't mind playing him. He's 67th in my model. I usually don't play anyone above 100, which we can see Doug Gim down here with Luke Donald and Andrew Landry. It's Patrick Cantlay or it's one of these 3 10K golfers to anchor your lineups around, I feel like. Or we'll see what the next bucket is with the course history 3s. Very likely all of them could finish inside the top 10, and that would be very difficult. Now we got to look at other buckets to determine how many golfers we can actually select from, each of these buckets. So although this says 1 to 3, if Cantlay from the other bucket finishes inside the top 10, as well as Cam Young, because he's a high price tag, the likelihood of playing 2 or more of these golfers is pretty low. Like, you wouldn't want to. So you also have to keep that in mind. That's the difficult thing doing all this on spreadsheets. If I was to have a website, we might be able to figure out that probability and really what a better projection would be, but we don't. So unfortunately we can't. But 1 to 3 is the projection. I think just Patrick Cantlay I really like this week, but maybe this is a good argument to go like Spieth, Rahm, or Morikawa to go with Cam Young. That might be a good choice too. Let's move on. The next one is the same. Course history 3, we want 1 to 3. Tony Finau is the top here with Xander Schauffele and Max Homa as your 9K golfers. So I don't mind skipping out on Max Homa. We already saw he was in a bad bucket with the last week buckets. I think I can ignore this because Max Homa is in that other bucket where the actual projection is 0 to, like the technical projection is 0 to 1, but the actual 0 to 2. He's the top guy there. That's exactly where we saw him at the Masters in those types of buckets. When you put him in a bucket like this, where we have Xander and Tony, Burns, Fitzpatrick, I honestly think I'm going to full fade Max Homa this week. I'll put him in one lineup. I'll put them in a winner take all to recoup my entry fees. So whatever that is, maybe it's a 25-cent, $50 winner take all contest. Maybe I only put $50 in. If that's the case, he's only in one of those lineups, only in one. And I'm fine with that. Hopefully I create the best lineup that takes down that contest, and I get my money back if I fail with, you know, playing the other guys. But yeah, Max Homa is not going to be a guy that I put in my lineups. Burns, Im, and Fitzpatrick, Finau, Schauffele. I think those are all great choices to build your lineups around. And then you've got a lot of glue pieces down here that are also worthwhile in playing. Remember the projections 1 to 3, and that does incorporate the volume of this bucket. So I'm probably not playing most of these 6K golfers down here. We're just going to stick to the top here. Does your course history 3? We're going to go into course history 4, 0 to 2, and actually it's going to be 0 to 2 for the rest of the buckets. So we might just motor through these ones. Course history 4, Sahith Theegala's up here. He's only played this event one time, finished 70th. Good reason not to play him. Good reason not to play a lot of these guys, if I'm being quite honest. I don't mind ignoring most of these golfers and playing them sparingly. Maybe putting their max exposure, like ownership levels, to like 7-8%, and just leaving it at that. I have nothing to say about this, but not enough names in here for me to talk about, and not enough good names. So moving on, again, the next projection is also 0 to 2. More good names here. I will also probably put my exposures to like 7 or 8% from this bucket. And then course history 6s. These are golfers who've never played this event. Scottie Scheffler, Tom Kim, Taylor Montgomery, Minwoo Lee, Adam Scott. I'm sure Adam Scott has played this before, but my data goes back to 2013, so I don't have it. I don't know what he would have scored. He might have played it, so if you can go back and look, maybe that'll be beneficial to you. But we have Thomas Dietrich, Sam Stevens, Justin Suh, Ben Griffin, Taylor Pendrith. These names, all really good names. And I could even go down the list even more. Akshay, Brandon Wu. I like Brandon Wu. Hayden Buckley. I don't mind that. Probably stay away from Nick Hardy. Lee Hodges I like at this event. I don't mind going to Ben Taylor. He's probably going to show up in my optimizer once again because, you know, he had so many good performances early in the year that's been wreaking havoc on my rankings. I don't mind Justin Lauer, Austin Smotherman. Those are all good names as well. I also don't mind Carson Young down here. Anyways, so 0 to 2 is this projection as well, which is kind of amazing. Amazing as in kind of, I'm sorry, 0 to 2. Yeah, course history 6 is. I don't know what to do with this. I mean, yeah, 0 to 2 is a consistent projection to be inside the top 10. So does that mean we fade Scottie Scheffler? Or is it we have to play Scottie Scheffler because the rest of these guys, I can't do that. I think Scottie's going to be another guy that I full fade. Because it's just going to help me build lineups to the bucket system. I would rather play these guys down here. Like I would take these guys over Scottie Scheffler. If that was, imagine those were bets that you can make, like follow the bucket system. From this bucket system, or from this bucket, would you play the field versus Scottie Scheffler? What odds would those be? Anyways, moving on. So we just talked about all the course history buckets. Let's move into the recent form buckets. And we're going to go through all the projections and then go into each of the buckets afterwards. Recent form ones, 0 to 2. So this is golfers that have the best recent form that you possibly can have. 0 to 20 or 1 to 20. So if their average finishing position is between 1 to 20 over the last 7 weeks, they fall in this bucket. We have 8 of those golfers this week. Normally we see about 5. Pretty high success rate. 0 to 2 is the projection. Recent form 2 is that next level, that 20th to 40th average finishing position over the last 7 weeks, 2 to 4. That's actually, using the conservative projection, this rounds up to 3, meaning the minimum drops down to 1. So I'm really looking at 1 to 4 from recent form 2s. That also applies for recent form 3s, 1 to 4. Recent form 4s, 0 to 2. Again, I'm looking at these columns here. We round down with this number and we round up with this number. So 0 to 2. I also take a look at the number over here under this column just to see, because this incorporates my sweet spot scores. So it also does kind of a rank system based off of that. And then it calculates a projection using those sweet spot scores. Still 1.47. That's still under 2. So 0 to 2 there. 0 to 2 for the other ones. So let's go ahead and talk about each of these buckets. Recent form ones. Again, if you're following along with me on the cheat sheet that you can find in the description of this video, select everybody from the course history bucket, since we were just filtering those guys out. So we can incorporate everybody. And then we're going to filter out everybody, clearing this one, this filter, and then selecting recent form ones. 0 to 2 is our projection. We have some pretty good golfers. Scheffler, Spieth, Cantlay, Victor Hovland, and then glue pieces in Clark, Fowler, Suh, and Griffin. I wouldn't play Griffin. But the rest of these guys, decisions. 0 to 2, remember, that is the projection. So this makes it kind of puts the onus on selecting Scottie Scheffler, Jordan Spieth, or Patrick Cantlay. I think those are the 3 golfers we continue to see in a lot of these buckets that have more than one 10K golfer and that have pretty high projections. One of those golfers I think you want to build your lineups around. 0 to 2, remember, is the projection, and it could be 2 of these guys up here. So maybe you don't even strike out by selecting one of these guys, because chances are one of them still finishes inside the top, or both, maybe 2 out of the 3 finish inside the top 10. So keep that in mind. Remember, the next 2 buckets are 1 to 4. We want 1 to 4 golfers from each of these buckets. So recent form 2 and recent form 3, we want 1 to 4. In recent form 2 buckets, your top guy is Collin Morikawa, then it's Cam Young. So if you ever wanted to make that argument to play Cam Young, remember we were looking at the course history buckets and Cam Young and Patrick Cantlay were in the same bucket. And it's like, well, which one would you rather have? Maybe it's Patrick Cantlay there. But if for whatever reason that is one of those golfers you're going to exclude, remember we were just talking about recent form ones. It was Scottie Scheffler at the top, Patrick Cantlay, and Collin Morikawa. Not Collin Morikawa. I just saying his name right there. I already forgot. What a bad short-term memory I have. Spieth. Jordan Spieth. So maybe you choose Scottie Scheffler or Jordan Spieth to go with Cam Young. I mean, I already mentioned Scottie with maybe Cam Young, or I guess in this scenario, Jordan Spieth with Cam Young. Could be a good combo to select, but you'd be kind of chasing last year's results. And I don't know if that's the right way to do this. But again, the projection for this bucket's 1 to 4. There are a lot of good names. And again, it's 1 to 4 to be inside the top 10, not 1 to 4 to put on your lineup, especially if you can't. What if 3 of these 9K golfers finish inside the top 10? Can't put all of them in your lineup, although there will be 3 that are technically inside the top 10 for this bucket. I mean, Burns is a great choice, so is Sung Jae Kim. A lot of like secondary pieces you want to add to your lineup here. So this makes me love like building lineups around Jordan Spieth and Patrick Cantlay that much more, because I can use any of these 9 and 8K golfers pretty easily. And really, I could use a 9K as well as an 8K golfer from this bucket, and it would satisfy the projections. But then there's also all these good glue pieces down here with Keegan all the way down. So it's interesting. Remember Matt Wallace? Yeah, he was doing pretty good not too long ago. So maybe his self-talk probably helps him out, or self-speak, I should say. Probably, I don't know. We'll see. There are good choices in this bucket. Recent form 3s. I don't understand how Jon Rahm is a recent form 3 golfer. How? There's no way, right? Recent form 3 is that 40 to 60th place finish. Oh, because of the withdraw. That's why. Yes, that would be correct. His withdraw from the Players Championship hurts against his recent form average. It doesn't really matter whether or not, you believe in a withdraw or not. He's still a part of this bucket. This bucket's still projected 1 to 4. He's very much contributing to this being a 1 to 4 bucket. It could probably just be a 1 to 3 or a 1 to 2 bucket or a 0 to 2 bucket if Rahm wasn't in here. So it's very likely Rahm finishes inside the top 10 and he just alone satisfies this projection. Because, well, I mean, there are some good names down here. It's another really interesting bucket. Maybe if you like 2 or 3 of these guys, you just don't go with Jon Rahm. But he's also super red hot as of recently. I should say as of recently. I do like Jon Rahm at this course. I kind of like Justin Thomas, but Justin Thomas has already been in a couple buckets I don't want to really choose him from. I still kind of like going like Cantlay or Spieth, pairing them up with any of the golfers we were just talking about in that last bucket, and then filling them in with these guys here. I kind of like Matt Fitzpatrick a lot at this event. So maybe it's a good reason not to play Rahm and a good reason not to play Thomas. Maybe. The next 3 buckets are 0 to 2 projections. They're all glue pieces. I don't even know if we're going to talk about some interesting names. I always like Taylor Pendrith and Hayden Buckley and Alex Smalley and Seamus Power. I like Adam Hadwin at this event. He shapes the ball all directions, each direction. And I don't mind like Brian Harmon at this event. I think this would suit him well as well. So good luck choosing golfers from that one. 0 to 2 is a projection here, but I think we could probably make the consensus at 0 to 1 because I wouldn't select more than 1 golfer from this bucket to be in my lineups. So don't overreach there. And then 0 to 2 here as well, but this is also a 0 to 1. Haven't seen CT Pan in a long time, by the way. I can't remember if he's coming back from injury, but perhaps we just don't select anyone from this group. Nice to see Ernie Els in the field, though. Damn. Okay. So now we got through the main 4 buckets. Now we go into salaries. And I mentioned this during the GPP or the pass optimal and GPP winning lineup segment that we were going to get here and talk about 10Ks, 9Ks, all the salary ranges. So when it comes to 10K golfers, 0 to 2 is my projection to be inside the top 10. Pretty high success rate, high strength of field points going towards here, but the cap is at 2. So if you did want to pair 2 10K golfers up, I think that's fine. I think it's fine. But I do think selecting 1 is the way to go. Despite what we saw in the pass optimal, and if you didn't see that portion of it, we found out that having a balanced build at this event is the way to go. At least that's what we've seen in the optimal lineup or the GPP winning lineup over the last several years. It's probably the way to go. Okay. Just wanted to double check something there. Our 9K range, 0 to 2 is a projection there as well. We have 5 golfers where we normally see 6. Very high success rate. So 9K does pretty well here. 100% frequency rate of being inside the top 10. 100% frequency rate of being the optimal lineup. Now, I don't mind starting 10-9. Remember, I always advocate for the 10-9-8, 7-7-6 method when you build your lineups. But this is just kind of proving more that going balanced might be the way to go. 0 to 2 9Ks. So don't play more than 2 9K golfers in your lineup. 0 to 2 8Ks. Again, 100% frequency rate of being inside the top 10. At least 1 golfer from this bucket every single year finishes inside the top 10. We normally see around 10. We have 9 this week. Not terrible. Pretty decent strength of field points. That's really the only other telling stat to provide. But 0 to 2. So we have 0 to 2 for the 10, the 9, and the 8K range. When we get to the 7s, pretty high. 36% of our strength of field points go towards this bucket, by the way. 2 to 4 is a projection. But when we incorporate this conservative projection over here, this drops it down, the minimum down to 1, since the max technically is 3. So really it's 1 to 4. 1 to 4, 7K golfers in your lineup, or not so much in your lineup, but to be projected inside the top 10, which means you can put up to 4 golfers from the 7K range in your lineup and be pretty comfortable, pretty confident that you're going to do okay as long as you select the right 7K golfers. And then the 6K range, I divide that into two different tiers. One is the 6.5K and above, so $6,500 and above, and then it's $6,400 and below, so below $6,500. 40 golfers in each of those buckets. We normally see around that every single year. That high 6K range, we see at least one inside the top 10 every single year. But guess what? We don't see one every single year in the optimal lineup. That would be the one year where we had 3 7K golfers in the optimal. Should have been. Maybe not. Was it 2 7K golfers? 2 9s, 2 8s, 2 7s? Yeah, that's probably what it was. I think you can be comfortable playing a 6K golfer. Maybe not a lower 6K golfer, but an upper 6K golfer, I think it's just fine. The projections for each of these buckets are 0 to 2 as well. So keep that in mind. Now, when we talk about strokes gained buckets, if you have no idea how I go about strokes gained, I highly encourage you guys to go check out the video in the description that says the bucket system, where I explain what these buckets refer to. If you don't care to know what that means, you can just use the column that says strokes gained. It's going to be one of your first columns you see on the cheat sheet. If I were to pull that cheat sheet up and go to the dream sheet, you're going to see that in column B. So the strokes gained bucket, that's basically what we're talking about right now. You could sort this from top to bottom. It's all color coordinated based off the strokes gained bucket. So here's all your golfers in the strokes gained 1 bucket, all your golfers in the strokes gained 2, so on and so forth. So when we look at each of these projections, just keep that in mind when we're looking at each of those golfers. We're looking at 2 to 5 strokes gained 1 golfers being inside the top 10, 0 to 2 strokes gained 2, 1 to 3 strokes gained 3, 0 to 2 strokes gained 4, 0 to 2 strokes gained 5, and there are no strokes gained 6 golfers in the field. You can see that right here. So keep that in mind. So when you look at this, 2 to 5, we're projecting to be inside the top 10 from the strokes gained 1 bucket. There's the likelihood that golfers from down here will be inside the top 10 because I don't think every golfer up here will be inside the top 10. I actually don't even think 5 of these golfers, or maybe even 4 of these, I don't even think 4 of these golfers will be inside the top 10. So really, I'm kind of making the case to myself to basically start Patrick Cantlay no matter what. It seems like the best way to go. I don't even know if I want a 9K golfer from here. I'd rather do a Burns or a Sungjae and pair him up with Matt Fitzpatrick. Like, I might skip the 9K range completely and just do these 2 8K golfers. I think that's the best way to do it. And actually, I might even switch my dummy lineup to do just this. And then if we wanted a 4th golfer, remember the projection is 2 to 5. I don't mind any of these guys down here in the 7, even the 7 to 6K range. All of these golfers are great. So this is a really interesting bucket to choose from. The next one I believe is 0 to 2. Yeah, 0 to 2 starts with Victor Hovland, then it just drops to Keegan Bradley and the rest of the 7 and 6K golfers. Like, my dummy lineup right now currently has Davis Riley in it because I'm just a sucker for Davis Riley, or I'm a glutton for punishment, one of the two. There's some good golfers here. Taylor Montgomery, Minwoo Lee, Adam Scott, Sam Stevens, who just had a really good Valero Texas Open. 2 is our max projection. That seems very difficult to wrap my head around because I can easily get to Adam Scott. Like, if I'm blindly building a lineup, Adam Scott, Lee Hodges if I need a 6K golfer, and then maybe it's not. I'm looking at some of these names. I'm like, oh, I wouldn't want to do Keegan to go with these guys, or Mitchell, or Montgomery. So maybe it's okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, whatever. So 0 to 2 there. Our strokes gained 3 bucket is 1 to 3. Scotty's in this bucket, so is Colin Morikawa, so is Cam Young and JT. So these golfers, each one of them has been in kind of questionable buckets with some of the other ones we've already discussed. This is one of those other kind of questionable one. 1 to 3 is the projection. I could see one of these guys being inside the top 10 that I have highlighted. Sky Scheffler, Morikawa, Young, Thomas. I don't know if I see two. I think, I don't know, man. I probably just, oh, man. I like some of these other names down here, by the way. Like Alex Smalley, Brandon Wu, Taylor Pendrith, Steven Yeager I could play if I want. Ben Martin, Siwoo Kim, Russell Henley, even Corey Connors. I don't mind going back to Corey Connors, and even Shane Lowry. So yeah, this bucket's really difficult. 1 to 3. Yeah, I honestly, if I'm looking at a lineup that I want to build, Cantlay, let's do Burns for shot like Harden. Burns, Matt Fitzpatrick. So I got a 10, 2 8s. Do I grab anyone from here? Let's do Adam Scott. $7,400 Adam Scott. I'm going to do Alex Smalley at 67, so I got my 6K golfer kind of covered. And why not go to Corey Connors? I'm going to pepper the 8K range just for Chad. So if I were to come down to this bucket, maybe I have enough for like Matt Kuchar. Let's see what this price tag is. I think I selected too many golfers. Yeah, I selected too many golfers. Let's see here. Which one do I want to drop? If I drop Smalley, does this work? Nope, I'm over. So this would be 49,200. I don't like that. I have 42,500 left, so $7,500 and less would be the way to go. I don't know if I can do that. Maybe I do Alex Smalley. Come down here. Actually, who's my 8K golfer I wanted to play? Shane Lowry. Maybe I go Shane Lowry instead of Adam Scott. Maybe I don't play a Strokes Gained 2 golfer. Nah, it's over the price. Anyways, we'll let the optimizer do these lineups tomorrow. But yeah, I'm kind of really liking starting Cantlay with one of these 8K golfers, maybe not both, since it doesn't appear to like that, and going from there. Strokes Gained 4, by the way, Matt Kuchar's obviously one of the better names to select. Same with Justin Rose. Like, a lot of these names: Kuchar, Rose, Fowler, Hoagie, Seamus Power, Matt Wallace, Harris English, even Maverick McNeely. I could get on Maverick McNeely this week. But remember, that projection is also 0 to 2, so you wouldn't want to go more than 2 golfers from that bucket. And then our last one is 0 to 2 as well, but probably just 1 at most from this bucket. So that wraps up the bucket system.